Hello everyone, I'm the 12th Women's World Chess Champion Alexandra Kostyniuk, and I'm very happy to present to you my first original video series in English for Chess.com, Absolutely Must Know Endgames. In this video series, I will explain to you the very basic endgames I really believe you must know in order to play chess well. We will talk about pawnless endgames, basically how to checkmate lonely king, and about positions where one piece, minor or major, fights against one pawn. I hope that you will find this course interesting and helpful, and it will help you in making first steps in understanding and studying endgames. So let's get started. The first video is about checkmating. I do believe that you know how to checkmate lonely king with queen, with rook, with two rooks, even with two bishops. I don't think you require a special video explaining how to checkmate. So we'll start with the most difficult position on how to checkmate, the most difficult that exists, I would say. In endgames, it's about checkmating with bishop and a knight. And before starting and diving into a theory on how to checkmate with a bishop and a knight, I should say that, first of all, in order to checkmate a lonely king in any endgames, you need to push it back to the edge of the board, to the corner, even better. And second, it's not possible to checkmate lonely king without the help of your own king in almost every single checkmate, except when you have two rooks or queen and a rook. And the same can be said about checkmating lonely king with a knight and a bishop. So first, you need to push it back to the corner, and second, which is very important, you need to look at the color of your bishop, and you need to push your opponent not just to any corner, but rather to the corner of the color of your bishop. So in these positions that we have on the diagram, it's the corners h1 and a8. So only in the squares, in these corners, it's possible to checkmate your opponent's king. It will require some practice to get this position, but I believe you can use a drill on chess.com and practice a little bit unless you master how to push your opponent's king to the edge. Then you set up this very beautiful line where the knight controls the corner of the opposite color of your bishop, and your bishop starts pushing the opponent's king to the needed corner. One more thing that you will often see in endgame manuals, that the maneuver of the knight in order to push your opponent's king to the corner will look like the letter W. It doesn't exactly look like the letter W right here, but if we draw straight lines, then we can all agree that it does look like a letter W. So the knight controls this square, the bishop controls this one, and the only square that is left for the black king is e8. King goes to e8, we play knight e5. The knight starts its maneuver, the W maneuver. King to d8, if the king goes to f8, we'll just give a check and we'll reach the position with the king on d8. King to e6, and now the scariest part of this endgame starts. It seems as the opponent's king escapes. So it goes to c7, knight d7, king to b7. Well, that's the best possible way for black to play. And black's idea is to go and leave these pieces all alone and far away. But in fact, after king to b7, we play bishop d3, and suddenly white's pieces set up some barrier for the opponent's king. So if the king tries to go to the center, closer to the center, then we'll just make a waiting move. And we see again that there is no way for this king to escape. It needs to go back. When it goes back, we push it back to the edge of the board. So again, all our pieces work and coordinate perfectly together in order to force the black king to go back to the 8th rank. It can go either to c8 or d8, it doesn't really change a lot. King d8, for example, king d6. If it tries to go back, we just give a check. King to d8, we make a waiting move. And then if the king goes to c8, we play knight c5. We continue this maneuver that we started a few moves before. King b8 or king d8 doesn't really matter, because then the knight will go to b7. If the king goes to b8, we play king c6. If it tries to escape, we continue our maneuver. So it's the final move for the knight to reach this W letter mission. It's completed. And now we just push this king further to the needed square. King to b8, knight c5, king to a8. Then we make a waiting move. It's very important. You need to really to pay attention when you have a lot of extra material, not to stalemate your opponent. It will really hurt if you play knight a6 here and it's going to be a stalemate. So you just make a waiting move, and after king b8, you do play knight a6 already with a check, and then after king a8, you give a checkmate. So it does sound a little bit complicated, but there are two basic things that you must remember. That first of all your pieces need to take part in this checkmating mission, and second, the checkmate is possible. You are able to checkmate only in the corners of the color of your bishop. And in order to finish this first video series, I do believe that it's always good to demonstrate endgames with connection to practical games, because, well, of course, learning endgames is a very interesting thing and very useful one, but if you understand that it can actually happen in practice, it's even more important. So I did play, I think, about 6 or 7 times in my practice with bishop and knight against lonely king. I did try to checkmate. I succeeded in all of them. And here are 2 examples that I prepared. This example, actually, you can find even a video of me checkmating. It's from a blitz game against Elizabeth Pötz. We played in China, and as you can see, I have a bishop and a knight versus lonely king. And let's see how the game proceeded. So king to c5, king to e5, king to b6. Well, she started running to the edge of the board on her free will, but it's if you play with lonely king, it's better to try to stay in the center. Here we made several moves, and I did find a way to push her king to the edge of the board. And then you see that she tried to stay in the safe corner, but I set up the position that I talked about. It's just a little bit reversed, right? So we have 4 sides in chess. Your pieces can be set up a little bit differently. It will look a little bit different, but the idea is still the same. My knight controls the safe corner. My bishop starts pushing the king to the needed corner, and my knight starts this W letter maneuver. And little by little, so the king almost escapes, but it doesn't, I push it back to the edge, and little by little, quite fast, I managed to checkmate in this game. Okay, waiting move, knight c8 with a check, king a8, and Elizabeth resigned. After king a8, bishop e4 will follow with a checkmate. And one more example that I proved to you that it can happen in a practical game. It's from the World Rapid Championship. And this position is very interesting. I have a knight and a bishop versus knight, but the problem for black that I play bishop e3. It's a very nice way to cut this knight away from the center. And I will just come with the king grab the knight, and that's actually what happened in the game, and we will reach already familiar to us bishop and a knight versus king endgame. Knight f3, king d5. Now if I take, there's gonna be a double attack, so you always have to pay attention to what your opponent is doing. Knight d2, that's why I played knight d2. And after king to e5, I finally won this knight. And again, since I have the dark squared bishop, I need to push this king to the needed corners, a1 or h8, and that's what happened in the game. So little by little, I pushed the king back by maneuvering the pieces. Then I was able to set up the position that I want to set up, this line position where the knight controls the safe square, and the drill begins. Bishop b8, king a5, knight d5, the W letter maneuver. The king almost escapes, but alas, it's not possible if you play well. Bishop f4, securing the black squares, knight controls the white squares, so pieces play very well together. Bishop e5, king a4, king c4, and check. And then the knight continues the maneuver, waiting moves. Sometimes they are very useful. King c3, and okay, some more moves, and here my opponent resigned, because after king b1, knight a3 will follow, and then bishop f6, checkmate. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share with you about checkmating with bishop and a knight. Again, practice is needed, so you better go to chess.com, and apart from solving those challenges, you also play this endgame drill that can be very useful. And hopefully, fingers crossed, if you happen to have this endgame in your practical games or online games, you will be able to checkmate your opponent's king. Good luck in that, and see you in the next videos.